Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Full TIMEOUT Podcast. I'm your host, Ari Bruckman. Joining us this week, our special guest has had a plethora of successful experiences throughout her tenured career. She has been the number 20 Buzzfeed employee, where she was promoted a total of 8 times during her time there. She now works as an account director at Spotify, and she continues to provide opportunities for young women and for young men to really pursue their goals by setting that example at a young age. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest this week, Miss Jennifer Wolosoff. Jen, how are we doing?
Oh, we are doing great. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I am so excited to be here, so thanks for having me on.
Definitely, and we're happy to have you here. Big shout out to Nicole for making this possible. Grateful for the opportunity to have you on here. So, Jen, for people who don't understand, they're going to say, well, oh, you worked at Buzzfeed. That's really cool, but it wasn't cool when you first started, right? Can you kind of tell the backstory about that?
Yeah. It was cool to the inside crew. Back in the day, this is 2010. The internet, be it social and forums, were really on the rise. The news feed didn't exist. The Facebook news feed did not exist. And the Buzz feed is what started this revolutionary craze of the feed that now exists now in Twitter. The infinite scroll BuzzFeed exists, really created as well. But when I started, I did not know the company. I interviewed, I looked at the website. I was like, this looks kind of cool. There was just a myriad of content. And it was the first of its kind. Yes, you had your news publications, of course, but this was different. This was fun. This was entertaining. In the beginning of the days, they called us, the cat content. And so it was a lot to take in, but it was really exciting because that was the start of what BuzzFeed truly became. And I saw it grow over the 9 years that I was there.
I know we talked on the phone
Sure.
a while back when we were talking about how that kind of came about. Do you mind sharing that story? I thought that was really cool. About and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess that's the perfect segue, because it's like, okay, well, if you didn't know the company, why did you work there? How did that happen? So I'll tell you. So I was working at an advertising agency, a media agency, where I was working in the division of television. And television, yes, it is still prevalent these days, but we've got streaming now. And at that time, back in 2010, over a decade ago, I could already see that TV was on the decline and social and digital was on the up and up. And I would just tell my network, whether it be friends or family or very close colleagues, because I didn't want to ruffle any feathers, certainly on my current job. And I just threw it out there to say, I really wanted to get into digital and I didn't know what that meant. And I get a text message on my BlackBerry phone back in 2010, and it was a BBM. And she had said, my friend Shelby had texted me on a bus ride from Maryland to New York one Sunday evening and said, you're not going to believe this, but I am sitting next to this guy who is chatting me up about this tech startup that he works at. It sounds interesting, and it's a website. And so when I heard website and you want to work for a digital company, I thought maybe you could, talk to him. Well, turns out he's looking to hire someone on his team. And I immediately sent him my resume that night. So great rule of thumb, always keep your resume up to date. I didn't need to be like working at it. Oh, I'll send it to you in a week. It was that evening on that bus that I had sent him my resume. And, we had made the connection again. I was looking up the website for the first time of what this company was. And they totally hit it off on this bus ride. It was a lot of fun. And I had my first phone interview with this guy on the bus that next night. And he was eager to hire someone for the position. And, I didn't actually have really the full experience for what the position was. It was a technical position. I was coming from an ad agency, so I had advertising experience, but this was more hands-on keyboard, like a bit of coding in a way. And I didn't have it, but I knew that if I was in the position, I would learn quickly and I would take it on. Ultimately, I got the position. I guess my eagerness, determination, passion and personality kind of hit it off, got the position. And that guy on the bus that my best friend spoke to became my boss for 4 years. So you never know who you're going to meet. And really, I think the tip there too is to be specific about what you're looking for. I hear a lot from whether it's, folks my age or even just, new graduates that are entering the workforce right off the bat. And they're all over the place. I want to do this. I want to do that. I don't really care what I want to do. I just want to get a job here. The more specific you can be, it's easier then for somebody to help you. And that's what you're looking for, is that helping hand. So I'm very grateful about that bus scenario. And I thank Shelby to this day for my career at Buzzfeed for making that connection.
Like you said before, you never know who you're talking to. And that's that's truly incredible. But I want to stay with something that I found really, really interesting.
Sure.
You talk about being clear and being really specific on what you're looking for. That's something for me, I think I found not just in fitness or podcasting or, being a news reporter, whatever the case may be. It's been, something that can kind of translate to any area of my life. But for those who don't understand what you mean, can you kind of paint how you were specific in your approach to, later in your career, doing different things and working for Spotify, but also, having this idea of manifesting and how that kind of played into it?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in manifestation. I am all about the self. And I think when you work on yourself and you truly think and you do some soul searching and soul digging, you really can come up with your greatest dream, and everything that you want to achieve is out there. I think what's really interesting, and this lends itself to the manifestation, is before I was at Buzzfeed, before I was at the ad agency, when I was in college, and probably even before that, I wanted to work in the music industry. That it was entertainment and music. That was my number one. And I interviewed at record labels and I got positions, and talent agencies and I got positions, but it really wasn't the right fit at the time. Record labels were also on the decline at the time. And I did my senior thesis at the University of Maryland at the business school on the music industry, and really got to learn and understand that this wasn't the right time for me to enter into this industry. It was 2008. We were on the cusp of a recession. It just wasn't the time. So ultimately, I pivoted and got into advertising. And what I think is so interesting is that 10 years later, or more really, 12 years since I had graduated I am now at Spotify doing business, working in advertising, yet having that music and entertainment lens. And so it feels as though I've come full circle. And I have no doubt that a lot of that self-work and the manifestation of what it is right out there in this world do you want? What do you see for yourself? What do you envision? And how can you take the small steps to get there? Before coming to Spotify, I was interviewing all over the place. Small jobs, big jobs, management positions, independent contributor positions, and really trying to figure out what it is that spoke to me, what made me light up, and what sparked my interest. And speaking back to the networking a little bit, is how I even got to Spotify, is that the chief revenue officer of Buzzfeed moved over to Spotify, and I had spoken to him, and we had worked so well together back at Buzzfeed, and it was a perfect natural fit for me to kind of head on over to Spotify. And it just bridged all of my passions, be it professional and personal. And I'm truly so happy today. So that kind of manifestation can be really powerful. I would advise anyone listening, put pen to paper. It's so simple. Just write 3 things that you are maybe grateful for today and that you would like to achieve tomorrow, and see how the world and the universe just unfolds. I'm a believer of that.
Yeah, I love that. I practice that myself. I think it's really important, especially on the days where you don't feel like showing up, especially on the days where you don't feel like doing it. It's more important you do it those days, because you're going to look back and say, oh, well, I did it when it was this tough. I did it when I was dealing with this. So I can do it when I'm dealing with this. Right. And everybody talks about different reasons. And some people refer to it as like a cookie jar of reasons or whatever the case may be. But when you start to do these different things, you ultimately are callousing over your mind to endure more and take on more. And ultimately make yourself more successful. But something I find really interesting is you actually had this kind of taste of, a limelight and being in that role before you started working for what BuzzFeed would become and what Spotify is now. And that's working as interviewing celebrities, Miley Cyrus, Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
These are people, right? These are people who a lot of people really admire and who have accomplished a lot. Talk about what that did for you with the rest of your career and also what you learned from those experiences.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the entertainment industry was always something I was passionate about. And on the side of my day job at the advertising agency, I would cover celebrity events on my own. There was a website back in the day and I would blog. I would go to these events on my own. I would take my own photos. I would blog about these events and I would get paid for it. It was the strangest thing. And I was like having this little side hustle going on. Well, turns out that somebody that I went to college with had seen that I was blogging, another great networking, weird coincidence story, saw that I was blogging about these celebrities, had met a reporter, a celebrity reporter, and had said, wait a second, I know someone that also does celebrity reporting. Why don't I put you in touch? Bada boom, bada bang. I interviewed for that position as just a side job and ended up working for the New York Daily News in the celebrity column. Now actually going on the red carpet to all these events, interviewing these A-list celebrities. And it was an unbelievable experience. Going backstage to a Rihanna party just so that I can have the opportunity to ask her a few questions, sitting down with Rufus Wainwright, who was one of the most interesting people. We sat there for 30 minutes having an intellectual and stimulating conversation that goes beyond just your 1, 2, 3, I'm on a red carpet. I need to ask you 3 questions. And it was really exciting just seeing some of my work then in the paper the following day. And so what I would say is the bridge to all of this is, one, the networking piece, as you can see, putting yourself out there. I was doing that blogging on my own because it brought me joy and I wanted to do it. I ended up getting paid for it. And then I ended up getting an actual job from it. But super cool to be able to do something and then have somebody who I barely spoke to in a while reach out to me to be like, yeah, I want to connect you. And then the second thing would be doing research. What I had learned in that position, and like you do, right, on me today and all the interview guests that you have, is really doing your research and showing up with your homework. And that's something in sales that I do through and through. Who am I talking to? What is their position? Maybe what even makes them tick in their day, right? And what do they want to achieve in their life? And how can I help them, right? How do I help them get the promotion to level up? How do I make them look good to their boss by securing an incredible Spotify program that could win awards? It's that type of thinking from my side. And it's that research and homework through and through, whether you're interviewing celebrities, interviewing the likes of me in a podcast like this, or doing a massive partnership from a sales perspective. That research and turning in what we like to call your homework is the key to success.
Definitely. And you have an opportunity, again, a unique opportunity to develop these programs. For a lot of entrepreneurs or people who have small businesses who are tuning into the podcast and they're wondering, okay, Jen, what is something you're seeing that is helping you be effective, and how are you catering to your audience and getting that attention on a platform like Spotify? What can you kind of speak to so far that you've seen? And especially in 2021, we got the pandemic, right? So more people are in front of their phone, tablet, computer. How has that helped kind of change the way you think about things?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I think the good thing is that Spotify is on the up and up. With more people home, there's more listening to be had. One of the trends that we've seen is co-listening. So instead of the solo listening, headphones in, maybe you're on your commute, which doesn't exist right now. Instead, your connected speakers are on, maybe your connected TV is on, your gaming console, and this is a shared experience. So the family is listening. Maybe a friend comes over, right, with masks on, and the friend is listening. Maybe you're listening to a podcast together to learn something, to be entertained. That is something that we have seen, but There's a lot of challenges that certainly come with this. You've got Zoom fatigue over, all this time. I think what I've really seen the success though is I have felt that I have been so much more productive in the sense that without the commute, I can go back to back in meetings. I can fire off a phone call. I'm sitting here. So I can do where, once I would be traveling an hour just to be early and on time to a meeting and, give me that runway and that leeway. Now I don't need that. And so I'm finding that I'm having more time to connect with more people, and that is only helping. So if you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I don't know where to turn to, just get out there and make as many virtual Zoom, Google Hangout, whatever it is, pick up the phone, call someone, get on LinkedIn, and just keep scheduling them. And it's, the more you try, the more you will succeed. It's been rewarding in that sense to me.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who believe they're capable of doing more, but the pandemic has forced you to be in a situation where you either fold or you play. People are always talking about show up this and show up that. If you're going to show up, but nobody, make sure you're all the way in, because it's not right to expect 120% result with a 70% effort.
Totally.
You got to put it in.
Yeah. And one of the things that, I don't know, you just reminded me is that I remember beginning of the pandemic, there was this shyness of turning on your camera. And what I have found, and I right at the get-go, I was like, I am going to be on camera every single meeting that I have, because I'm showing up. I'm showing up as though I was in person, and I want you to see me, and I want you to feel my energy, and I want you to see my facial expressions, because I think that, yes, we can't, to have all the senses, but if you can see me, then you can hopefully feel the passion that I have for what I am selling. And I have told that to some other sellers, even at different companies. It's just a tip that I have had, and they have found such success with it. And sometimes I'm at a meeting and the entire, all my clients have their cameras off. Sometimes I'll just say, hey, no, I'm not forcing you, but I would love if everyone, or as many of you, can turn on your cameras. And you know what? Sure enough, people are more willing if you just ask.
There had to be a bunch of times, right? You're transferring, you're starting a new career. And at the time, while you think BuzzFeed's cool, and there are a lot of people who are, like you said, internally, who really believe in it, it didn't have that global feel. It didn't have that worldwide, recognition. And even with Spotify, I mean, it's reliant on a lot of other people, but at the same time, there, I'm sure, are points where you're saying there's this defining moment for you where you have the opportunity to turn back and kind of, throw in the towel there. Or you say, look, I've already accomplished this. I've interviewed all these people. I've done things that so many people dream of doing. This is just another thing I can do. Can you talk about a defining moment that you remember and kind of what pushed you through that point in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting is one of those moments was leaving BuzzFeed, actually, and I think some people are ready to get out of there. It's not the right position. And I loved my time at BuzzFeed, and I wasn't necessarily ready to leave, but I was also really looking for a challenge. And I, being at a company for so long, I'm not the type of person to be complacent, and I wanted to level myself up and do something different so that I could continue to feel accomplished. And that's just always me. I'm like the rock climber. I'll get to a certain point. And I had moved different positions. As you mentioned, I got promoted 8 times. I moved different positions at BuzzFeed. So I had felt that I had leveled up a lot within the organization, and I had achieved so much success that it was kind of my time to even give my success, my opportunities to others to rise up. And that is what I did. And I left on this high horse, full of tears, but full of just admiration for even all that I had done with the people around me, because it's definitely not a one-person show, that's for sure. Then, making that decision wasn't easy for me, but I was ready to take on something else and something new. And that, I think, is the pillar of, like you just said, it's okay to feel uncomfortable. And I think we need, to be more comfortable in the uncomfortable. And to say that, because that's where you grow, is that place that's sticky, that's hard, that's like, I don't even know if this is the right choice. I don't even know if I'm making the right decision. But I know even if it isn't the right decision, that it's going to get me to the right decision at some place. And then I'm going to keep on moving, and I might, have some dips here and there, but it's always going to work out. I think that's the biggest thing too, is if you believe in yourself, you will continue to move in the directions that works for you, whatever that looks like.
When you think about yourself, 12 years ago, graduating college, obviously it's a different time, but you're entering again, very similar to 2020 and 2021 grads, this really unorthodox time. And there's a lot of questions about what's going on in the world. And I think those questions are always going to be out there, but these two times, 2008 and now, really, really unique from the rest. Can you talk about advice that you have as far as what you wish you would have known that you think would be also effective and helpful for some of the other young entrepreneurs right now?
So I go back to my alum, University of Maryland Business School, often, and I speak in front of hundreds, or sometimes I will speak one-on-one and people reach out to me just to get some advice. And one of the things that I have heard is, I have this major, but I don't know that I really want to follow in this major. I have this other passion and maybe I want to pursue that, but now my resume has this major. And you could also apply it of maybe you have a first job and then you don't want to be in that industry anymore and you want to totally change industries. How do you transfer? And I hear that a lot. And what I tell people, and I'm telling you guys listening on, is that you are really the creator of what goes on that resume. You get to decide how you want to be portrayed for the position that you're going after. And so just because you have this major or the first, job that you had, that is okay. And how do you spin it so that it all ties in? There's a lot of finessing that can happen based on who you want to be for this position. My mom would always tell me, she goes, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And it's similar in that resume, like dress up the resume for the job you want, maybe not for the job you have or the major that you have at the moment. You get to tell people who you want to be. And I think that there's part of that manifesting in that too, right? Of I'm putting my best side of myself out. I may have many facets, but here's one track that I want you to see based on what the role is for this position. And that's how I'm going to crush it. So that's one tip. The other one is, a lot of times when I talk to these students that are maybe juniors or maybe seniors and they're looking for that first job, and some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them want to go out and build and craft, and I'm like, go for it, because now is the time. Anytime is the time, but certainly then is also a great time, because you are, you're young, you're creative, you're curious. You don't have as much to lose when you get older, but still people do it all the time. I've got a lot of friends that are true entrepreneurs building their own businesses today. And it's fascinating and amazing to watch them, even help them with their venture capitalist pitches and whatnot. But I would say is that, the people who are in their entrepreneurship work today were in corporate jobs before, and vice versa. And that what you start in as doesn't have to be where you end up. My dad started his career at Deloitte, and he was there for over 35 years in one company. And today you don't see that as much. You see that people jump around and they're more comfortable with finding themselves through the likes of these different organizations. And that's okay. Take a year off to start your own thing and see where it goes. If it's a flop, no big deal. Get back on the corporate chain. If it is amazing, then you just made the best decision of your life, because here you go, riding that wave of what consumers want and how you're going to help them. I think taking those risks, not thinking that if I go into this one job or I pick this one track that I'm married to it and wed to it, because in reality, you're not. We all change and evolve. Yeah.
I think that's incredibly important for people to understand, really, is that when you do open your mouth, and you kind of said this before, you let the world know who you are.
Yes.
You had a chance working at Spotify, working at Buzzfeed to understand an audience perspective too, right? Because you're also catering to, and reliant on other people participating in the platform and being able to generate that recognition and attention there.
Sure.
What are some things that you think would be good for people who are trying to generate that same interest into their platform, regardless of their platform? What are just some tips that you think would be really helpful for people to kind of generate that interest?
Yeah, I mean, leaning into consumer behavior is number one. Instead of going against the grain, there are some folks who have an idea and then it might not sit well with the ways that we as humans operate or think or approach one another. And so you're going against the grain, and that's always going to be a harder battle to win. Whereas if you go with the flow, and you go more on that downstream, that's really where you're going to find that success to keep picking it up. And then you'll come up on that upstream, but it's riding that wave with the wave instead of against that current. So really, thinking of yourself, what is it that you need? I feel like, that's what entrepreneurs say all the time, but also then beyond yourself, what is it that everyone else needs around you? And, does this exist already? Maybe it does. Okay, maybe you need to pivot. What is it that's proprietary? They talk about that in Shark Tank all the time. Like, that is number one. If it's investable, it needs to be proprietary. So what is it that you have that nobody else has today? Or how can you patent it so that only you can have this aspect of this larger product, service, whatever it may be? What I have seen as to why Spotify continues to be successful is that there's always the long term. They're not as interested in like the short term quick hits. And BuzzFeed was very similar to that too. It was really about the longevity of the company's success and of making people happy. Spotify prides itself on the user. The user comes first, advertising comes second. And when you're a user, that's really exciting. When you're listening and you don't hear and you're not inundated with ads, like think about radio. Why is it so annoying? Is because you are inundated with ads, every single one. None of them even relate to you. You don't even care about it. You're not in the market for a car, and now you're being advertised in auto dealership. You are, not looking to own a home, and now you've got home insurance on your way. And so it's this cluttered environment, and you're constantly changing. And why is streaming on the rise is because that doesn't happen. And we now have the ability to target you more effectively so that you're hearing ads that feel more personalized to you. But what we don't do is inundate you because we want you to stick around. We don't want you going from Spotify onto another platform. We want you to stay here, and we will provide to you more of those personalized recommendations that we think you will, be interested in, whether that's Discover Weekly every Monday of here's some new songs that they might not be new in terms of their current today, but you don't know them. And so here's some songs that you should discover based on your listening habits. Or New Music Friday, totally current. This is something that, you want to be cool and in on the trends and your finger on the pulse. New Music Friday is what's going to get you there. And so we have a little bit of something for everyone. But again, it's really about the user first, advertiser second. And I think advertisers like that. They want to be on a platform that people enjoy being on. And so that they're more attentive, instead of being a passive listener, they're an active listener because they are excited to change the next song. And then an ad comes on and they're listening and they're like, wait a second, that actually relates to me. That's interesting. Let me maybe learn more. Let me go to their website. Let me find their Instagram page, etc. So really being, I think the personalization is key, is users first, and advertising will come. I mean, that's the long term. The revenue will always be there, but that short term, getting that user base is certainly important.
It reminds me of YouTube. What YouTube's doing right now, I realize that that's, another platform, right? Social media that's competing for our attention, but they're always asking, have you heard of this company before? Right? They give you 5 options, Nike, Under Armour, right? And you're checking these boxes, or you have the option to skip the ad. Does that help the user stay more engaged on the platform? by allowing them to interact and feeling like they have more control over the ad that they see? Or does this become more about just YouTube trying to fill that time slot there? Because that would still be the 5 seconds that another advertisement would be in that place if they click the skip ad.
Yeah. Well, it's a choose your own adventure. So if you gamify the system, more people are more in tune. 2, if you see an ad that is more that you chose that, relates to you in some capacity, then yes, you're more active versus passive, you're more engaged, and you're more likely to take action in some capacity. Tell a friend, again, go to the website, go to a social page, actually go buy the product or service. And then there are people who are brand loyalists and brand fans. I am a huge fan of the likes of Geico. Geico Insurance is one of my favorite advertisers because they've taken a fairly mundane product and commercialized it in a way where everybody loves Geico commercials. And everybody loves because they've made it funny, they've made it humorous, they've made it playful, they made it relatable. And so if a brand like that can do all those things, why can't you? And I think, that's you building that affinity for a brand is so important because it's like the same thing of doing sales with a person. If you like that person, you're more likely to buy from that person. If you like that brand because they're doing some really cool, innovative work, you may be more likely to buy that brand. Oh, I saw this. That was hilarious. It's now cool in my mind. I'm now going to buy this product. And some of it's subliminal, some of it's frequency. The more you see something, the more you're likely to take action. Yeah. So all of that I think has to do with the YouTube question.
Obviously there's a million different ways you could go when it comes to advertising, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people don't even realize that there's an ad, really, right? It's almost like it's a jingle, right? It's a song they remember. Yes. It's a slogan. It's something like that when you're younger, you kind of just say, because you feel like you're participating in something, right? You know it. It's a strong brand and that brand recognition. But I thought something that you said that was really, really cool was that people are huge brand loyalists, right?
Yeah.
So that marketing on the bigger platforms like Spotify and YouTube, do you think that that's the right path or the most efficient way to gain a larger following? Or would you recommend, another way that you just think that maybe it's not worth it because of the cost or because people don't have that following or credibility yet?
I would say that the best thing to do is to plant all your seeds first and foremost to see what grows. Try a small buy on Instagram, try a small buy on Spotify, try a small buy on Buzzfeed. The more you try, the more information that comes back. And yes, you need to put some skin in the game in order to reap those rewards. But the analyses of that can be really, really interesting and can be impactful and can skyrocket you faster than if you just spend all of your money on Instagram right away and you're not seeing the results and it's taking a lot of time. So what I would say is just really go out and go in with what are your goals? What are you what are you deeming success? And have that as the baseline across all of these buys that you do so that is it click-through rate so that when you want to get somebody to your website, right? And maybe it's not the end goal of them purchasing, but maybe you can track that as well. Certainly as you get down the funnel, it becomes a bit harder, but sure, at that baseline, just getting people to your website, try a myriad of techniques. On Spotify, we have something called Ad Studio. It is a minimum of $250 to get started. So any entrepreneur can get on board and you can go out and advertise your product and you can personalize it. You create your own audio ad just for that amount of money. And it's amazing what is possible today. So I would highly recommend get out there, test a lot, and then, give yourself the parameters, make it measurable, make it actionable. Say, I'm going to test all of this for 3 months. And after 3 months, I'm going to collect all the data. And then I'm going to make smarter decisions and more strategic decisions about what is working. And maybe in a year from now, I'll revisit that planting analogy and, go back to the drawing board because new platforms pop up each and every day, as we know, and it's fairly fragmented too. And so that's okay. Just keep trying. Be a student of the business, I would say.
I love that, Jen. Could you tell people where they can find more about you, Jen? I think they're fascinated by all the information you've shared.
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I get people reach out to me all the time. I'm happy to hear from you. If you enjoyed this presentation, if you want some career advice, whatever it may be, I'm always happy to help somebody else who's willing to learn. Curiosity is number one in my book. And if you're curious and you are interested in being successful, then I'm all ears because I'm one of you. So I appreciate that.
That's awesome. You've accomplished so much, and really there isn't just one thing that I think you kind of point at that says, oh, well, this defined your career. Oh, well, this defined your career. But for you, what continues to drive you, and what does success and those specific goals look like for you here moving forward that you're kind of working towards?
I feel like it kind of seems cliche, but for me, it's really just about feeling fulfilled every day. Waking up, wanting to go to work, being excited about the work that I do. If you haven't heard of Simon Sinek, he is one of the most brilliant, inspiring leaders who educates on leading and who educates on finding your why and really finding your own why of what makes you tick so that you can be fulfilled every single day. We spend so much time at work, and to not be happy in those 8 hours a day, and for some people that expands to 10, 11, 12 hours a day, no. You got to rethink it, rejigger it so that you're happy every single day. And for me, it's constantly just feeling challenged and fulfilled. And if I can do both of those things and feel, fulfilled professionally, but then also happy personally and have that balance and that blend, I'll keep on succeeding.
You kind of answered my kind of ender question here a little bit. So I love that. I love that answer. I think that's actually super, super cool. And a lot of what you've talked about comes down to you controlling your environment, to you making conscious decisions that you want to see change, that you want the quality of your life to improve. What kind of impact do you want to have on the industry?
Whoa. I want people to feel like they did good work, that they got something out of the experience in working with me, whether it was a kick-ass campaign that they felt really proud of because we started from this nothing and it became something massive, whether it won awards, whether they just felt fulfilled because they felt seen and heard. I mean, at the end of the day, we're people, and I'm not here to really elevate myself to be on this pedestal because that's not me. I'm really just about the authenticity of if I can help you and make you stronger in your personal professional life and, and career, then amazing. Then I feel like I've done my job because I'm not going to force you to buy anything if it doesn't work out, or if you don't, if you're not seeing the value or the alignment, then totally cool. I've got other folks to talk to, and that is a-okay. And maybe something will resonate and you'll come back later. The legacy is to do good work, to feel proud about what I'm doing so that other people can feel that passion, that, desire and that excitement for what we're doing. Yeah. And to have a good time, have a damn good time doing that. Cause that's what I'm all about, the balance.
Everyone who's tuning in, guys, girls, if you haven't felt the passion and excitement throughout this interview from her end, obviously from my end, I love to do this, but from her end, you can hear the enthusiasm talking about how much she loves what she does. But understand that there's a lot of work. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into what she does and making everything possible. And we need to remember that as soon as we stop doing that maintenance, it's hard to continue to expect that goal to come to fruition. Keep writing it down. Keep visualizing it, continue to manifest it, but don't confuse patience with lack of action. Put forth the effort, create a plan, take that massive action, take the steps you need to move forward. And ultimately, you know what? It's not going to be the right path right away because you're going to have to kind of create your own, but you'll learn, you'll fail, you'll grow. It's okay to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Jen, thanks so much for joining us. We wish you the best. I appreciate your time, and this was a blast.
Thank you so much. Yes, this was fantastic. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will talk soon.